I'm sure many of us know someone, if not you, who's felt uncomfortable talking about religion and money or just have feelings of shame or guilt about it. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, a podcast where we discuss the crossroads or intersections of religion and money. We're going to go deep into topics like tithing and saving and debt and so much more from the religious view. I'm your host, Shay Cook, CEO and founder, Crusaders for Change, LLC, and our co-host is Vanessa McNelly, one of our financial counselor, coach, educators. Let's talk about God and money. Well, welcome back, everybody, to Yahweh's Money, the crossroads of religion and money. Excited to be here with you. Another episode. Episode number 10 is Building Balance and a Budget. I'm Shay Cook, your host. We have Vanessa here, our co-host, and Dr. Juanita Warren. So, Vanessa, you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's so good to be here again today, and I'm so excited. Our guest today is Dr. Warren. We have worked together for the past few years in a couple of different ways, but she's extremely knowledgeable. She knows her stuff with money, she knows her stuff with religion and God. So, Juanita, we're so happy to have you.
I am just grateful to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, definitely. You want to tell us a little bit more about you, Juanita?
Oh no, not at all. No. I am Juanita. I love to talk to people about money, money
Mhm.
matters, and money management as a whole. I fell in love with general ledgers in 10th grade, which is when I
Me
decided I
too.
wanted to teach people about money. And then actually became passionate about just biblical principles around money
Mhm.
management after going through Financial Peace University. And so I just love money, love money matters, love love money, love the Lord, yeah, all that. I'm also a chaplain,
Oh,
um,
nice.
and so I this is just divine to be here in this opportunity, and just thank you guys for what you do, and just making this available to the public.
Thank you, and you're welcome. And we're just excited to have you here today to talk about money and the Lord, but specifically building balance and a budget. Building balance in our lives is essential, and God sees it as necessary. But why must we balance? Or why must balance be a priority in our lives? In Proverbs 16:11, the Lord says, the Lord demands accurate scales and balances. He sets the standards for fairness. And in Ecclesiastes 3:1 through 2, it says, for everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, and a time to plant and a time to harvest. So, why must balance be a priority in our lives, Dr. Warren?
Aside from the Bible says so.
Exactly.
Well, and I would probably say that's exactly why. I love the
Hmm.
acronym, the Bible standing for Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth.
Yes, my mom used to tell us all the time.
um, and and I think it really provides a blueprint, mm, because anything done in excess can be dangerous and detrimental. And that balance, if you just think of a scale, and it tilting one way or the other to keep things on track, is why balance is important, in all areas, especially when it comes to money management and spending. And so what we say, you definitely don't want to spend too much, and it's not great to save too much, like to save everything and not spend. And so, aside from, because the Bible tells us so, it's just, if you removed faith from it and just looked at it from a logical perspective, it makes sense and it works.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's one of those things where, all things can be good, like you said, and all things can be bad for us as well. But learning that we need to be patient and learning that there's a time for things. We don't know the best time for us, but He does. And we may think this is the time where we go out and we buy that new house, or we buy a new car, or we invest in, a new business, but it may not be the right time in His eyes. So knowing to be patient, knowing to sit and wait, and knowing that it will come, but it may just not be the right time. And there's a reason behind that and a reason for that. We just don't understand it yet.
And to caveat, I'm sorry, to trusting God's timing. A delay is not a denial, right?
Mm,
Very
And
true.
just seeking
Yeah.
that it's His time and not ours.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
that is so good because I know I deal with that a lot and trying to obey God, but also wanting my own goals and accomplishments and achievements to happen on my time. And it's like that's not how it works, you know. If I'm in the spirit and the time and the moment, I realize that God is controlling this, or I need to be led by Him, and that's super important. So, I mean, let's speak more about, the scales and, Proverbs 16:11, as I repeated before, the Lord demands accurate scales and balances. He sets the standards for fairness. How about if you have a problem with the fairness or, I mean, a lot of people struggle with that. Well, really, is that fair or is it not fair? What do you think about that, Dr. Warren?
One, that it's okay to have a problem.
Exactly.
I grew up where, oh, you don't question God. And it
Mm,
took me a long
Hmm.
time to learn that, well, if I can't question God, who can I question? If it's He who has the answers, right?
mm-hmm.
That's who I need to ask the questions of. Like, because that's who really has the ultimate answers. So it's okay to be able to articulate that that's not fair. But it's also in doing that and understanding that fairness fairness is your responsibility on your part, but you can't make someone else be fair. You can either reward them
Mm-hmm.
or not based on that fairness. As consumers, we kind of miss that we reward businesses and entities with our money. So by spending our money with them or investing with them, be it time or money, that's how we reward them. So if we think that a charge or a price is not fair, we don't have to purchase. We don't have to utilize that. We don't have to consume, be a consumer of that. But it's one, I think it's important that we have a measure of, okay, so what's fair and
Mm-hmm.
what is that based on? Like right now, our struggle is gas prices. Like,
Amen.
why why is gas prices $2 higher this year than it
Hmm.
was last year?
Mm-hmm.
But then, and then looking at, well, what can we do to do things differently? So determining, so what's our standard for fairness?
Mm-hmm.
And holding ourselves accountable, but
Accountable.
also holding others accountable to such as well.
Yeah, and two, what God sees as fair for you or for myself could be completely different, and that's something we
Mm.
have to be okay with too, because
Yeah.
others are going to have more than us, and then
Mm-hmm.
some are going to have less than us. And even though it may be fair based off of, our education and, what we have done to get to where we're going, it may not be equal because fairness
Mm.
doesn't always mean equality.
Hmm. That's a good point. And I always, when I talk about fairness or even going into deeper with jealousy, 1 Corinthians 6, we don't have it in our notes, but it always comes back to me is everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And I always go back to, I don't know why, I always think about cheeseburgers. Every time we talk about podcasts, I think about, I can, I love permit, I have permission to eat 3 cheeseburgers, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be beneficial to this waistline.
Hmm.
Okay. So, I don't know why I always think about cheeseburgers when I'm thinking about what's fair and what's not fair. But going even into money, it's not like you were saying, Vanessa. And some people have more money, some people have less, and that's beneficial to them and fair to them. And some people on the outside are looking in, but that's what God gave them, and that's and hopefully they're using it wisely. They're not always, but that's how it works sometimes. And
Yep.
yeah, and in many areas in our life, from spirit to religion, work, family, health, including our finances, require balancing. How is budgeting part of our wellness to a better balanced life? And what can we imbalance in our finances? What can an imbalance in our finances lead to?
So it seems like in the money community, budget is like the B word, like a bad
It's a
Hmm.
stigma. Yeah.
word. And so I like phrases like a spending plan,
Mm-hmm.
or just kind of a guide of telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went.
Mm.
And so that's like first and foremost. If you I think if you're not telling it where to go, you're wondering where it went.
Mhm.
And you're guessing like, well, I don't know what I did with this. I don't know. These days, growing up, we had check ledgers, right? You
Mhm.
could kind of actually visually see where your money went. Now everything's like digital. We're looking at line online, and we're not really keeping track of it. So I think for a budget is just kind of a roadmap, if you will, to kind of tell you this is what we have. You know where you're trying to go. Here's how you're going to get there. And I think a budget gives you kind of that visual to see if it's balanced.
Mhm.
Like you can immediately see, do I have more money coming going out than I have coming in? Because
Mhm.
if that's the case, there's a problem. That's typically typically negative unless you've already started with a surplus. And you can kind of there's a saying that says if you want to tell about a person, look at their checkbook. So
Mhm.
if I want to
Mhm.
tell the kind of person that you are, let me see your checking account,
Mhm.
and see where you're spending money. Are you spending it on eating out and Uber
Mhm.
Eats and Grubhubs? Are you spending it in tithing or
Mhm.
giving? Charitable giving. Are you spending it on shopping? Or are you not spending it at all and just now I won't say hoarding it, but saving it. So I think a budget helps to see where there are imbalances, and
Mhm.
and where some shifts and adjustments can be made. So it's not a bad word. Budgets are your friend. Spending plans are your friend. Plans for your income and your outflow.
Yeah, and on top of that too, just like everything in our lives, we're taught about moderation. And I
Mhm.
think budgets and planning and balance is all about moderation too. Using Shay's analogy, if you spend your whole paycheck on cheeseburgers, you can't afford rent. So you have to learn to take care of your needs first and foremost, and then worry about those wants that you have. And that teaches us so many life lessons. I talk about my grandparents, as you guys know, all the time. And that was one thing that they really instilled in me, that, your needs come first, the needs of others come after that too. And then your wants come along. And it's okay to want, it's okay to save for what you want. It doesn't mean you're going to get it today. You may have to wait, you may have to make other sacrifices too, but knowing how to make that choice, make those balances in your budget or your spending plan, and know that certain things come first, I think that kind of just spills over into the rest of your life.
Well, and if you think about it from biblically, write the vision, make it plain.
Mhm.
Right.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
So that budget helps you to do just that.
Yep.
Exactly. And in Luke 14:28, it says, suppose one wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down to estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? You didn't build the
Right.
Taj Mahal or anything in a day. It takes time from the foundation up, and it takes a budget, a spending plan, looking at your finances, the way you're spending, the way you're saving digitally. I personally still I don't use the check register like we used to back in the day. I did. I was very adamant in using that, but I do have a check register digitally app. There's an app for everything these days, and then I do a budget still, a spend plan every month for the business and for my personal. I need that accountability built in, and it just keeps things moving in the right direction for me. And when you were about to say, no, I don't want to say hoarding, I was thinking hoarding because some people, including me, sometimes I hoard my money because of the way I was brought up. We didn't have a lot of money. I want to plan for the future, but then that causes me not to have a balance and living life, going, having fun and all those kind of things because I'm always trying to plan for the next moment. So there's definitely that imbalance in my life, unfortunately, with hoarding my money and saving because I've seen the other side where I didn't have any. So yeah, that can definitely be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the parable of the talents.
Mhm.
When you think of talents back then, talents was a measure of money. So think of it the same way, like that discourages you hoarding all your money and not doing anything. And for those of us where our personality is the saver, 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 no, nope, you can't get anything if your hand is constantly closed. So
Exactly.
you kind of gotta open it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's, that's good for people to think about and realize too, because we always talk about overspending. You're
Mm-hmm.
spending too much, and we never really address the other side of things, because that can be just as detrimental, to your well-being, your health, your family. It's just you get in this place, and it's all you can do is save, 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 and that's not a good mental place to be either. And you're not teaching others, to enjoy what you have, because we're not put on this earth just to work, work, work. There should be some time spent enjoying each other's company, and doing things and seeing things that will take money to do. So it is okay to spend a little bit, as long as you're saving along the way too.
Yeah, I need that class specifically for me because I'm always working, I'm always saving, and I'm not having fun. And my therapist last week told me you need to date yourself, you need to take care of yourself better because all you're doing is taking care of others and you're thinking about this and that, but that does not include you. So, and I know so many people that I'm meeting, or at least God's bringing into my life, that are going through the same thing. Not everybody, like Vanessa's saying, is overspending, irresponsible with their money, especially coming, hopefully out of a pandemic soon. We're almost in the third year,
Yep.
but a lot of people are more imbalanced on that other side. How do I say it? I just had the word, sorry, and I lost it. Just imbalance. They're, just
Right.
just
Right.
saving, just scared, fearful of what's next.
Mhm.
So not trying to have fun, not trying to travel, whatever that looks like for them because of the pandemic, because of the way of the world is right now. So there's a lot of fear around that.
Mhm.
I would say again, look to the Bible. Like Jesus
Mm.
did food, fellowship, and faith. This is what he did. Like there was
Exactly.
always food, fellowship, and
Mhm.
faith, and travel. And yet
Mhm.
those are the things that we are forsaking. Why?
Mm.
Out of fear when,
Mhm.
the Bible says God has not given us the spirit of fear.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah.
need not give it to ourselves or continue to operate in that. So food, fellowship, and faith are like great reasons to and see it as an investment in
Mhm.
others, an investment in ministry, an investment in yourself, as
Mhm.
opposed to like spending or wasting money. So I can always make a good reason for food, fellowship, and faith. Yes.
That's a good way to look
Yeah.
at it.
And I've talked to quite a few people who it's almost become an obsession with saving money. And
Mm.
oh, I want to see my account get to this. And I have this number in my head. And it's like, okay, well, what happens when you reach that number? Like, what's the big thing? And it's become an obsession because you haven't been able to do anything for so long. And in the beginning, it was like, oh my gosh, like I can save money and I can have this and save for XYZ, but now we're coming out of it, and a lot of people are kind of stuck in that obsessed kind of set where it's like, okay, I'm going to spend as little as possible to save as much as possible, but
Mhm.
there's not really a reason for it. If there's a goal at the end, go for it. But when there's no goal, it becomes a vice, just like anything else.
And back to the balance thing.
Mhm.
Like you'll have the people that are because of the pandemic and we spent so much time closed in and people have experienced so much loss. It's like, well, I can't take it with me, so YOLO, let me live my best life, and I'm spending all this money and robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I don't care about any of my fiscal or financial responsibilities. So you have both extremes, like people saving it all, hoarding it all because they've experienced lack,
Mhm.
and then those who've experienced loss and are just throwing caution to the wind. So again, finding that balance, that happy median, and what's placed on your heart to do.
That's exactly. You just read my mind. I love how God works, I really do. And even in Proverbs 21:5, it says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. But I would even add in there, and I'm sure in the text it goes deeper into saying, good planning and hard work is great and leads to prosperity. But again, going back to that balance, you can't be focused just on the prosperity, right? And
Right.
scared of the poverty. So some of us are obsessed, and hey, that's me. Sometimes I'm so led to meet certain goals, but then I'm scared of the poverty. So that just leaves me turning and turning and turning like this rat on the wheel, just constantly going, 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 and not enjoying the faith, food, and fellowship. So, which I love. I'm going to use that forever. So, what can we put into practice to change the scales of balance in our lives?
Um, Great question. I would say
Mm.
first decide to change
Mm.
this. It starts with the decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So begin like change your thoughts, change your thinking,
Mm-hmm.
change what's in your surroundings, what you're absorbing. Mm, So I would say, assess where you are, because that's the only place we can start. Start where you are. So where is that?
Mm-hmm.
And how's that working for you? How's that looking for you? What about wherever you are is working for you? And what about it is not working? And how can you change that? A circle that I run in, we don't look at the pandemic as being a pandemic. We call it a divine shut in. Just kind of how God worked and orchestrated it all to
Mm-hmm.
cause the entire world to pause,
Mm-hmm.
to like a force a shutdown and slow down. And how, there were still people who prospered in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can take a look at so what worked. And one of the very first things people saw where they were able to save money was in their goings and comings. When you stopped having to commute, you wasn't spending gas and you were
Mm-hmm.
able to save money. When you weren't going out to eat,
Mm-hmm.
and you were at home eating, not only were you saving money, but then you begin that. I think one of the greatest places of healing is the kitchen table or any table,
Mm-hmm.
call it whatever table. But again, around food, fellowship, and faith,
Mm-hmm.
but you were able to be at home and save money there, and eat as whatever your family unit was, and that didn't necessarily look like the traditional family. Like it
Mm-hmm.
could be just neighbors and people around, but determine what's working, what's not working, what you're empowered to change, what's in your circle of control and your circle of influence, and manage those things. The whole thing, faith without works is dead. So there are pieces of it that we can do, those that we can do by our own hands, let's do that. And that we cannot, let's leave it to God.
Yeah. And I think so often, it's so easy to blame everyone else for what's going on in our lives. And, there's a reason. It's because I did this or I didn't do that or that person doesn't like me or, whatever it is. And it's so easy to blame and not look at ourselves. But in reality, we know what we're doing wrong or right. We have that little voice in our head that's telling us, oh, maybe I should save a little bit more, or, maybe I should buy, a cake for somebody's birthday or make one, whatever it is. We know what's right, what's wrong, what we should be doing, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, but we're so quick to blame, others for that. So I think, what you're saying about looking to see what we can change and what makes sense to change, we all know the answers to that. It's just knowing ourselves and trusting God enough to do it. I think that's the hard part for most people is just, saying, okay, change is hard. People say that all the time, and change is hard. But in the end, after a change, most of us are glad we did it.
Look, and if you don't know it, find that friend or that family member that'll tell you, like, girl, you
Right.
need to do this and not do that, or stop supporting that man, or
So
stop supporting
true.
that child, or stop turning up every weekend, and like, find the person that's going to give you that tough that tough love. Or let me see your
Accountability.
checking
Mm-hmm.
account and your credit card, and I can tell you what you kind of
Hmm.
need to stop doing. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that accountability partner is real, and somebody is gonna give it to you real. I have my
Yep.
circle of like 3 or 4 people, and sometimes I'll be like, "All right, I know I don't want to hear, it, but husband, what should I do?" And he'll give it to me real and raw, and I'm like, "Lord, it was hard to hear it, but I needed to hear it, right?" So, and even in James 1:22 it says, "But don't just listen to God's word, you must do what it says. Otherwise, you're out here fooling yourselves." And I added the how here, but otherwise you are only fooling yourselves,
Hmm.
So even like we were starting off this conversation, like Juanita said, it's in the word. It's clearly stated, listen, don't only listen to it, do what it says. If you're a Christian and you're following the word or whatever religious text that you follow, there's definitely a word religious text out there that can help you make those decisions and change. But like Juanita's saying, having that accountability certain circle of those real people that are going to tell you what you need to hear, but then you have to listen to it and act on it and do it, you
Hmm.
know So, and even in Proverbs 24:27 says, do your planning and prepare your fields before building your house. So we need to make a plan and make it simple and just and follow it. So you can have the best laid plans, from a spending plan to a fitness plan to
Mhm.
what a vacation plan, whatever it looks like, but it could just be a plan. You got to put it into work.
Well, and I think that's like the model of grace is
Mm,
allow for flexibility.
yes.
Like, life happens, stuff happens, change
Mhm.
happens. Like, it doesn't have to be stringent, now, and God
Hmm.
allows for grace. So also allow yourself grace. Just something may come. You know what? Like, and there's I you may find that there's a need that pulled at your heart. Like, you were driving down the interstate and stopped, and there was a homeless person, and you gave them more money than you had budgeted for, or whatever. Give yourself grace and understand that budgets and spending plans should be fluid documents. You
Hmm.
know what? It might work well this month. What we're finding is, with the prices of gas and the prices of groceries, like,
Hmm.
we're having to readjust. Like, that 250 per person might now be $300 per person, just because of cost. So, exercise that same amount of grace towards yourself and your spending plans as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think too, it's one of those things where people who have this strict plan, it's something you can follow for a bit, just like a really strict diet, like saying, I'm never going to eat carbs again. That is not an achievable statement. You have to have an achievable goal that, works and makes sense with, your budget, your lifestyle, your family size, all those things. So saying things like, I will never eat carbs again is not something that 99.9% of people can do. But saying, I will only eat carbs on the weekend, or I will only do it, to an excess of, 15 carbs a day, or whatever it might be. You you know what is doable and workable for you. But when you put yourself in that position and you're either, you don't have a plan, or you are following this plan that is just not realistic, I think it causes people to not see the light at the end of the tunnel either. And we have to have those things that make us happy and we're working towards. So yeah, I think it's just finding that balance. Is so hard for some of us and so easy for others, or other parts of our lives. But we've got to work on it. We got to find a balance, and like you guys were saying too, finding people who are doing what we want to do, and I think that
Yeah.
makes it a whole lot easier too.
And how do you eat an elephant? Like, one bite at a time. So
Right?
so
Yeah.
figure out those bites, and, like, with the same example
Hmm.
for carbs. You know what? Well, maybe I'll do one meal,
Hmm.
that's carb free, or
Hmm.
just kind of how our mind are wired. Because the moment you tell yourself not to do something, your body's trying to figure out how to make you
Exactly.
happen. So, okay, maybe not carb free. That's protein rich. So you're
Right.
Mm,
replacing it with. So just, work on just the one bite at a time.
exactly. And then I'm sitting here and like, I can't achieve no carbs during the week or not on the weekend or fit. That's not going to work for me, but I need to
Hmm.
find something that's going to work. So I like the protein rich, and I also like giving grace. And that's a great way to end this episode. But any final thoughts, Dr. Warren?
So there's nothing new under the sun.
Amen.
The beauty in that. So there's somebody else out there that is, and many people else out there that have done this. And one of just, I think, just the beauty in the creator is that there are things that we talk about even just in our faith. You'll see that they cross faiths, and absence of faith, that is still there.
Mm,
So regardless of if you happen upon this and you're of a different faith or a different belief system, that there'll be something in your belief system that still works. So find the people that are out there doing what you want to do, things that work for you, that are in languages and that you understand,
mhm,
vernacular you understand and can relate to, and apply that. And know that no man is an island. Iron
mhm,
sharpens iron. So seek
mhm,
help, seek assistance, and make sure you build you a support system that's going to lift you up, and hold you accountable and responsible.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we're not going to do this in a month. It's not something you can change in one pay cycle. So,
Mhm.
as stated before, grace is a wonderful thing. We give it to others. So we definitely need to give it to ourselves, like you guys were saying. But just know that it's a process and it's a road. So, you're going to sometimes take a little side step and go and do something for a minute that may not fit into your plan, but it may be
Right.
what was needed at the time too. So,
Mhm.
yeah, just know that it's a process and it's not going to happen in a day.
Yep, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So definitely
Hmm.
take your time and give yourself grace. Well,
Enjoy
thank
the
you, ladies,
journey.
both. That was awesome. Dr. Juanita Warren, it's amazing having you here, and Vanessa, our
Yeah.
co host. And that was a great episode on building balance and a budget. And our upcoming episode will be a 3-part series titled Feelings of Failure and Finances. We're going to talk about failure, going deep into that, and hopefully make it sexy for everybody to talk about. Okay. And so you can tune into current and future episodes of Yahweh's Money wherever podcasts are found, including Apple, Google, and Spotify. Please email us at Yahweh@crusaders4change.org if you have any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss in a future episode. And thank you for joining us. And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way. Thank you for listening to this episode of Yahweh's Money. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the crossroads of religion and money. If you have any questions or suggestions of topics you would like to hear us tackle, please email us at Yahweh@crusaders4change.org. Also, we would love to hear your feedback on today's episode, so please leave us a review and remember to subscribe to our podcast. To hear all of Yahweh's Money's latest episodes, please visit us at www.crusaders4change.org or wherever podcasts are found. God bless.